You know, we actors spend most of our lives speaking other people's lines, thinking other people's thoughts, living other people's lives. So to be asked to do a TEDx event is extremely difficult. But here we are, Rand.
Yeah, really. I have been working in the American theater for a good 50 years, acting, directing, teaching. And I think our efforts have been pretty concentrated during all this time. We've managed to zero in and continue to focus on those plays and playwrights that have been judged to be the greatest treasures in our cultural heritage. Plays like Shakespeare's King Lear and Hamlet.
And The Merchant of Venice
Yeah.
and Macbeth.
Yeah. And going even further back, Sophocles' Oedipus Rex, or Aeschylus' Prometheus Bound.
Or Sophocles' Antigone, or Euripides' Medea, or the Trojan Women.
Yeah. Or how about Molière's Tartuffe?
How about his Misanthrope?
Yeah. How about Ibsen's An Enemy of the People?
Or his Doll's House, or his Head of that Gabler.
Yeah. And Chekhov's Three Sisters.
And The Seagull. Well before we met in high school, these plays inflamed my imagination. For me, it was the play Macbeth, when a troupe of actors visited my high school, and they decided to use the aisles in the auditorium for their exits and entrances. And as they entered and went past my seat, I thrust my hand out and I touched Donald Bain's cloak. Oh my God, it was like an electric shock went through me. And I thought, oh my God, this is real, this is alive, this is present. And I was hooked.
Well, for me, it was seeing Hamlet and Oedipus Rex on stage. And I tell you, it was like two nuclear blasts, that shot through my raging adolescent hormonal rage. It was amazing. It inflamed my imagination. I knew then and there that I had to be a stage actor. I had to do these kinds of plays. There was no question about it. So when I was 18, the Honolulu Community Theater announced that they were going to do a production of Macbeth. I was ecstatic. I was so excited I couldn't contain myself. And I said I had to be a part of it. I just had to be a part of it. And I had never really been on stage before, maybe a couple of drama classes in high school. So I screwed my courage to the sticking place. I went to the audition this first time, and holy smokes, I got cast as Malcolm. Well, the night we were to have our first reading with the entire cast, it was being held in an old army barracks on the backsides of Diamond Head Crater. Well, I went in. I could hardly control my nerves. I was thoroughly excited, and I stepped into the room, and reality came crashing down on me. There I was, face to face, in a room full of white people, mostly older, dour-looking white people. Well, I didn't know whether to pass out or continue on. I said to myself, okay, Rand, breathe, be calm, don't fall apart right now. You can't hightail it out of here. You got to go through with it. So quietly find a seat and get ready to do your damnedest. And I did. The first words that were spoken, when shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain? When the hurly-burly's done, when the battle's lost and won, where the place? Upon the heath, there to meet with Macbeth. I was in heaven. I was home. I knew this is where I had to be. This is where I had to spend my life.
Well, in 1970, our paths merged. Randy was a guest actor at my college, and we were both performing in a play by Brendan Behan called The Hostage. And at first, we didn't like each other at all. But one night, he knocked on my dressing room door, and I opened it, and he said to me, "I just want you to know, I think you're a wonderful actress." Well, there you go. Everything was forgiven, and I was ready to follow him anywhere. When he was asked to, we grew quite close, and we realized that we shared a great love of classical plays. And when he was asked to perform at some of the finest regional theaters in the country, I went along, and I was privileged enough to be able to sit in on every rehearsal and every performance of every production that he was in all over the country. And it served as my apprenticeship. And so for 10 years, I was able to watch and observe and listen to actors and directors and the great words of these great plays. And little by little, I realized why they're great. I keep thinking about Stella Adler, who said that the word theater comes from the Greeks, and it means the seeing place. And she said that people come to the theater to see the truth about life. And I think we've spent the last 50 years of our lives trying to do just that, trying to figure out how can we put the truth of life on the stage.
You know, Shakespeare told us actors that the purpose of playing is, as it were, to hold a mirror up to nature. Now, this is a huge task, to reflect life clearly, without distortion. You know, it's a huge challenge to do that. I mean, in a way, it's so strange that here you're dealing with a profession that it relies on illusions, make-believe, masks, makeup, costumes, paint, flimsy facades, all placed in the service of telling the truth. Very strange, very odd. So, nonetheless, I've spent the bulk of my life every day facing a torrent of questions, endless questions, small questions, large questions, sometimes cosmic questions, all demanding that I pay attention and try to answer, try to grapple with it. And perhaps the most important and most insistent question is, perhaps in our time, what is truth, and does it matter? Every morning I wake up and it is right in my face, and there's no way to set it aside, no way to put it to bed easily.
And for me, I think I've learned a very simple lesson, but a very important lesson from theater. And that, you know what, we're really not very different from one another. Not now, not 100 years ago, not 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, tears are universal. Laughter is universal. Well, mortality itself is certainly universal. And I suppose in the struggle to see things as they are, well, perhaps we can come closer to the truth if we're in the presence of these old stories.
Yeah. And I think today more than ever, it's so important for us to see what truth is. And maybe we can find some help in the plays of Shakespeare, Sophocles, Molière, Ibsen, Chekhov. We love these plays, and we've lived our lives learning the lessons of these plays. They've gotten us through the toughest times, and they've given us the greatest joys. Yeah?
Yeah, indeed. I agree. These plays need to be seen and heard. They need to be seen and heard in the best possible light that we can shed on them, that we can put on them. And we need to see them often. We don't see them often enough. I mean, they're visions demanding to be embodied, demanding to be given flesh and blood, breath, the fire of life itself.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, we would take the next 50 years and do it all over again.
Yeah.
Thank you.